Hello folks, I hope you're having a great day today. Hey, today I want to take a look at Saki. I want to take a look at a short story he published about a little bit after 1900 called Jesting of Arlington Stringham. It's after reading about halfway through this book of his collected works. It has his novels, short stories, plays that he wrote, and so forth. It's about 900 pages total of all the things that he wrote. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the short stories. And the Jesting so far is my favorite story, so we're going to be taking a look at that here in a moment. It's my favorite thing I've read by Saki by a lot. I think it's really, really good. I think it's similar to H.G. Wells' Piecraft, who I haven't reviewed for you yet, but will here in a little bit. It's a good story, and I want to go ahead and take a look at it. I think it's got a lot of funny things happening for it. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to read for you the first line. And once I've read for you the first line, I think you'll get an idea of why I like it, where it's going, and a lot of the funny flavor of the story. So here we go. First line. Arlington Stringham made a joke in the House of Commons. It was a thin joke and a very thin house. Something about the Anglo-Saxon race having a great too many angles. It is possible that it was unintentional, but a fellow member who did not wish it to be supposed that he was asleep because his eyes were shut laughed out loud. One or two of the papers noted a laugh in brackets, and another, which was notorious for the carelessness of its political views, mentioned laughter. Things often begin in that way. That's the first paragraph, again, of the Jesting. So what's going to happen in the Jesting? And like many of Saki's works, it's going to be about 3 pages long. It's super short, super fast. In fact, by modern day standards, it's more flash fiction than short stories. And that's true of pretty much anything he touches. It tends to be very, very short, short stories and that sort of thing. But what's going to start off happening, you're going to get the idea, is that him and his wife are going to begin to start having an issue because they're more proper, conservative, don't joke. She doesn't believe it's appropriate to say things that other people haven't said first. And she doesn't believe that true wisdom can come from your own soul, spirit, that sort of thing. So she doesn't like the fact that he's riffing jokes after they've been married for a while, and it's going to cause a little bit of an issue in their relationship between the two of them. And that's pretty much the story. I'm going to go ahead and leave you there. I'll link you to it below. You can find it online and read it. I would recommend that you do so highly. I do think it's Saki's funniest work. So Saki, as a reminder, is a contemporary of H.G. Wells, living in London in the pre-World War I days. About when World War I started, he was in his early 40s. He applied for getting a job for the military. He was assigned a post because they were desperate, even though he was in his 40s. He was assigned a post, and he actually died in one of the battles a couple of years later during World War I. So he'll actually pass away in his mid-40s in World War I proper. But he was a contemporary of a lot of folks. He was somebody who was gay, but he had a closeted lifestyle because there had been a number of big giant scandals of people like Orson Scott Wells, and some others that were famously gay and had some scandals that happened. And that sort of thing was definitely something that he was very familiar with. So he wasn't somebody who was writing about, what's like to be gay in, Victorian era, England. But one of his major targets are kind of these Victorian airs, Victorian concepts. And so one of the things that you're going to regularly see in his works are targets, and often in a very, very funny and amusing way, of these various aspects of Victorian society. So if what you like is some commentary from contemporaries of Victorian society and how it sometimes can have some issues, you're going to love Saki. Saki also writes a lot of horror, a lot of science fiction, and a lot of fantasy. All of his works are not one of those two. Actually, I don't think he actually wrote science fiction. I think he wrote fantasy and horror. Nevertheless, a lot of his works are in those genres. I don't know if the Jesting is appropriately a horror story or not. It has horror connotations to it. It has the surprise ending, which feels like it's a horror story, but at the same time, I don't know if it's a true horror story or not. But it's fine. It's by a horror writer who's famous for being horror, and I'm not going to play games with that. But anyway, it's very good. It's very fun. It's very incendiary. And if you enjoy the first line and this idea of him making a joke in the House of Commons about it being a very thin house and a very thin joke about the Anglo-Saxon race, right, having too many angles, then you can, and then him finding gaining some momentum because people started to write about it, and his wife and him starting to have issues because she doesn't believe that any sort of wisdom can come from anything other than quotes from great writers. Then this is going to be the story for you. It's a great story, and again, it's my favorite one that I've read by Saki thus far, and I'm about 2/3 of my way through the big giant book of all this stuff. So there you are. I'll leave you to it. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Have you read it? Did you agree or disagree with it? I'm happy to sort of engage you with it more. And the topic, some of the details, maybe the ending, and the surprise ending. I'm happy to talk with you about it more, and kind of engage you with it. And finally, hey, if you like this channel, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. We also such many of these reviews to follow. There are classics of works of famous writers that you may have heard about but never read of, or forgotten classics in fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And also, finally, if you watch this channel all the way to the end, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day. We all have such busy days, busy lives, and so many things happening. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's very humbling, and I appreciate that. Have a good one.